Again, you have to clear your lines, except on this one. Sure. So you'll be showing.
Very.
Part of my school. It's- Oh, okay, you know.
Oh, you guys don't.
Sharing is caring.
The way this is gonna go, is anyone who's brave enough to come down to ask a question? We ask you to line up here in the aisle, and then the microphone's right here. And we will take as many questions as time will permit. So, but don't be shy. Is there anyone in line ready to start? Come on. Yeah, yeah. You won't have this opportunity again in a while.
Brave person coming.
For a year. Yeah, that's the mic. You were so quick to start the mic. Yeah.
I'm. Oh, line right here. I'm a diversity line producer, so I love hearing all your stories about call sheets and building sets and how magical that is. Because as a diversity and a line producer, it's always so fun to talk to the production designer about them. What was one of the craziest things you had to get through your line producer safety? I'm just always interested in that.
These are open questions, so whoever has a first sense, they can pipe up.
It costs $30,000 to add this crazy thing that our creature sat on our mill house. And we had built that mill house like long before we shot it, and it sat there over the winter. And Guillermo and I looking at it and said, "Damn, it needs something." And I was totally with it. That was to kind of go to Miles Taylor for doing food and rat look at you and bake. But I had Guillermo support, so made it easy.
Any other crazy memories?
Well, when Bob steps out of the redwood in the outhouse, he traverses all of these miniature cars that are like eaten by moss. And it was like less than a mile. It was like 10 houses up from Bob's house where we were filming. And I'm just like, I bet you there's another neighbor that has some junk in the backyard, right? And you can find that. I'm like, have you been here? It's the most magical oasis of car. I mean, it was this woman that had been collecting cars with us for 60 years that had been eaten by the forest. And luckily, everybody had the right mind to be like, no, let's just do this little location move. So sometimes location moves are worth it.
I agree.
Any other conference? Okay. Thank you. Next.
Hello, I'm Rob Powers in the Art Directors Guild and work a lot in virtual production. I was the art director on Avatar and was nominated for my work by the ADG for 1010. My question is, did you use any virtual production elements that you found particularly useful, particularly in set design, active set design, or anything like that on any of the projects?
Okay, so let me tell you about the virtual experience. Here straight. So one of our he was an assistant art director, and I pulled him up to art director towards the end. And he had all the things, right? Like the goggles and stuff. And you never have enough time as your director at any rate. And he wasn't, but he's like, "Have to bring this down for the walkthroughs to be taped out, like the Jeep joint. You know, Brian can look at it." And I'm like, okay, does this thing work? Like, I'm not gonna have everybody sitting around fussing with this because I have to get answers. He's like, yeah, it's gonna be good. And we get there, and so we're all standing there. Ryan puts on the goggles. He's got like an iPad, and Ryan's got the thing. He's like, so here? Oh no, I didn't move. Here? So, but what am I looking at? And he didn't see anything. So he's turning around in circles, and Tim's like, okay, now try it. 30 minutes. I sat there and watched this whole thing go down. And I'm just like, I don't even know if the bathroom is 20 feet from the door or 10 feet. So I banned all VR.
Okay.
That's how I feel about it.
You want to go more smoothly next time? 323-823-623.
This is all we have a group for doing a long time. Right. Next. Next up.
Everyone, my name is Lynn Lee, and I work at New Finance. Sorry.
Checks.
Marty Supreme sweatshirt.
Yeah.
My question is, you talk about a time or a specific story where you had to make a compromise on, the production design and the accuracy or historical accuracy of your design, because it just didn't look quite right on camera. Like maybe you executed exactly what you wanted to execute, but when you saw it on camera, you felt like it wasn't quite right.
Yeah, well, really the question is,
They all did it right.
yeah, it's not our fault if they didn't shoot right. We really don't have that aha moment of sort of standing back after the camera shot and go, oh, I got that one right thing. Or because you're off on another set.
I think you're right. I think by the time we get to camera, we have the aha moment like way before. So we're working that out before the camera arrives. Otherwise, we've done a bad job.
Point of interpretation as well. I mean, you do the research, but you sometimes, I've had directors say to me, we're not doing a documentary. So you do take a little bit license.
Yeah, I'll say real quick, like for this film, for Sinners, it was like, we want to capture the spirit of Clarksdale. We want to capture like what it means, right? Like King's Tamales and some of that history. But like every day I would say to people, there's vampires. Let's be clear, this is like Earth 2475. Right next door to us, different dimension. It should look the same, but there's magic that exists. So we have to make this magical to look at. We've got IMAX and 70mm on Durand Archipel, first one to shoot on our for this film. So there's a certain amount of dreamy that the production design had to carry through. You want to feel like this feels familiar, so I can accept it. But by the time you get to the oneer, you're in it, right? So you want to create a different world, but you want to create the same world. And I think each of the designers up here that made the decisions on how their worlds are supposed to be is how they're supposed to be. And there's literally no compromise.
Thank you.
My name is Jackson. I'm such a big fan of all of you. I think this is such a great group of movies. My question, I'm wondering, since you're all experts in your field, if there were any movies from 2025 that were not nominated for production design Oscars, that stood out to you and that you might want to shout out right now.
Train Dreams.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four.
I love Surat. I think
A short film called A Friend of Dorothy.
Yeah. Oh, it's just as well.
Yeah.
Game.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna shout out for Blue.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much.
Great question.
Yeah, those are good.
Hi, my name is Jesse. I'm a filmmaker. I work for the Television Academy on the In Memoriam segment. I just want to give a quick shout out to Debbie Patton, who was mentioned at the beginning of ceremony. We met with her a ton, and she's incredibly helpful. My question is for Jack, but also broadly for the panel. So, in an interview with Sean Fennessy, you talked about how Josh Safdie wanted to paint a room white in honor, in homage to A Clockwork Orange, but you told him that wasn't period accurate. And years before that, you would, I know Paul Thomas Anderson wanted to paint the bowling alley, and there was flood white, but that also didn't happen. I was wondering why you think that film is so influential, and for the whole panel, what do you do when a director wants something, but that you can't give it to them for practical reasons?
Usually, I never say no to a director, but I have trouble painting rooms white. Now for so many years, and with Emmanuel Lubezki, Chivo, we decided that we had a dogma, and one of them is that white eats through the film. If you look at it, it's just clear. And And I think people look better in with their backgrounds. You know, it's more of a mirror effect. So my instinct is not to paint white. I also see too much white in this world right now. All the houses are white inside, outside. And, cars are white, black. That's it. So it's a personal thing, but it's also, I think, aesthetic. Is that the whole question?
Uh, yeah, pretty much, but broadly for the panel, what do you do when a director wants you to do something, but you want to have a different idea or push back against it?
I was gonna say, we're going with Ryan because he's family. Obviously, the way I speak about him and the way I speak about the films we work on together, and I'm very, jolly about it, big family. Well, and I said that in Fruitvale Station when I first met him, he was 25 years old. And I was an old lady, and I said, I'm always gonna challenge you artistically, and I want you to do the same with me. Like, I wanna start a relationship with a director where we are constantly kind of like talking about it and challenging each other to go deeper and further and push the envelope more and think outside the box and do the things, stuff like that. So when he asks me for something I don't want to do, I just tell him no. I'm just kidding. No, you figure it out. You take what they want, you take what you see, and you figure out how to make it a thing. Right? Like you can't. It's all of us. It's a piece of all of us. It's a piece of him. It's a piece of me. It's a piece of Monique. It's a piece of Autumn and Ruth and da 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 da. Da. So it can't just be one way or the other. You figure it out. And you move forward, and you do what's best for the story at the end of the day.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is To. I'm from Bangkok, Thailand. Currently a student at USC School of Cinematic Arts. So congratulations, first of all, for every single one of you for the nominations tomorrow. You guys is gonna be great.
It's the event.
Great questions because I'm taking art direction class and the first assignment with Professor Me who's here. Um, First assignment is called locations, locations, locations. It's been repeated 3 times, so I know the importance of locations. My question is, for one battle, you says you were scouting for 3 years. Some of the locations in script is very specific, but some are kind of like not really. How do you scope your research and process? Because like in the United States, there's like thousands of locations you could go, and like if it's something that does not work out in scope area, how would you do about it? Like when do you stop searching?
Never stop searching. Ending right there. But you just start sniffing everywhere you can. You start reading blogs like for the desert. It's like reading hiking trails, and that's how I found that big reef where the handoff is between Lockjaw and Bounty Hunter, or a location manager will bring you something. But you just start digging. And so it's through reading articles, old newspaper prints. Google Maps is your best friend. You just go on that little person, you drop the person, and you just start traveling around and the discoveries you make. Honestly, I'm surprised a lot of the film commissions actually from all of these every city has a film commission, and they'll have a website or a person who really wants to at least get your foot in the door and introduce you to somebody. So in El Paso, when we first went, we met the local architect who's rehabilitating all of the buildings, and he gave us a big historical tour of the city and became actually like our right hand to permit a lot. And be able to open the window on the side of the historical building and have like loaded the furniture. So, and then the most important thing is once I think you get to a city, even in your own city like Los Angeles, you just keep looking and you keep your eyes open and you're pulling, I think, beyond what's in the script even, and building like a catalog of things that you keep coming back to and not be afraid to knock on somebody's door. And you can do a lot of that work yourselves or as a unit. and always important.
Yeah, I think that locations are one of the greatest tools that we have as an art department. You know, that it's a big part of designing a film. And David Lynch has a clip on the internet where he talks about production design. And in that he describes a location that he did use for Eraserhead. And it's so powerful when you see the image and the sound and what he made out of something that was over here in San Vicente and Beverly.
Yeah.
You know, where the Beverly Center is, using your oil tanks and stuff. But if you have time, look at that. Is it
Any other thoughts?
I've actually had it happen twice where we went next door. So you kind of like you're going to look at a place and then we end up going next door. So like, you know, it's that thing of like keep on looking. And it's in Hamnet, the farm that we used. It was only because the people with the original farm they weren't home and the location manager just drove down the road and came across at the farm we used, which was not on any location database or anything.
Oh.
And then the movie I'm doing at the moment, exactly the same thing happened. We just went next door.
I would say one of my fears is that you're shooting a location you love, and the grip or somebody on set says, "Well, why didn't you shoot that place around the corner?" So
Okay,
Thank you so much.
thanks.
Hi, my name is Mashringa Breathwaite. And I'm Carly Desane, and we're here with you guys today.
Sorry, from where?
Aspiring set decorator.
Oh,
Okay. So my question is, because I saw the bike riders that you did, and it kind of gave a similar tone to Marty Supreme. And I guess my question to decorators, do you feel like your approach or your style is recognizable, even though all these different films are different? But does your style kind of come through projects? That's for all the decorators too.
I don't know. I mean, for me, I always just do it from my heart and like where, you know, where the project takes me, and I feel like what ends up being in the film is what has come through me, and I feel like maybe there is like a recognizable look to it, and also usually for me, like whenever I do films together, you know, I did those films really close to each other too, you know, so and they're both, you know, period films, um and the research, you know, kind of saturates you for that period of time, you know, so it really becomes a part of you, and it's hard, you know, to let go honestly with period stuff even when you're done with it. Like even like after I do a film, even with like Killers of the Flower Moon, like I was obsessed with like early 1900s oak furniture for like 2 years. Like trying to bring it into my house. My wife's like, please, we cannot have.
I think as designers and not studio artists, I don't think anyone here strives to have a signature. It's the work itself. All right. Is that fair?
Does the signature like show through though, do you think, or no?
I think it's the quality of the choices and the intelligence you give yourself over to the work.
And the attention to detail. I really just, this group is stellar.
I do think when you look at the top decorators and you look at their filmographies, I do think there is a flavor of what people do. I think it does show through. I can't specifically pinpoint it,
Right,
but I think everyone has their thing.
right.
And so I think you really have to look at someone's filmography and sort of pinpoint what they do, because I'm obsessed with decorators, and I always love, if I find a decorator that I love, I'll go back and watch 3 to 5 of their films. And to me, a sign of a good decorator is when you catch that flavor of what they do. It's heightening the business, you know, and that's what a great decorator does. It's taking, a topic and elevating it and putting your mark on it. At least that's what I strive to do,
Okay,
because otherwise it gets really simple.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's actually a compliment to Adam.
that you guys noticed that. I feel the same way that you guys feel. I watched a movie and it was it was just like it really moved me and I waited until the end and I was like, who's the set decorator on that? And it was a guy named Jim Erickson. And then I just went deep into him. And I watched all of his movies and like 2 weeks later he actually called me to be a shopper on his film and I was like, wow. It's happening right now. But yeah, it was a thread that I noticed for sure in his work. And the same with decorators like Victor Zolfo, like he was a big mentor to me and someone that I think you can see. But yeah, it's a really good question and compliment to Adam and everyone.
And I have to agree with Hannah because Nancy Haig was one of my inspirations.
That you could tell it Nancy. There's this thing, she has this, it's so subtle. It's simple, it's not subtle. Cause she had sausages and that's in true grit, right? They're all in that room and then when what's his face gets up from the little bed, just all of these sausages. It's not that one thing. What's the gesture in the room? That was it. You know, you look at Big Fish and it's the little boy's room, it's just the bed and the dresser. But it's something magical about what she does. Like it's every single thing. It's so Nancy. It's so Nancy. You can tell that from so many different decorating.
I think also, like, I know what she is driven towards as a decorator. He might not say it, but I see his attention to fabric is really important to him, to the texturing of the fabric, to the aging of the fabric, the patina of the fabric, upholstering, reupholstering. And he rates this every piece of furniture. It is his signature. You don't notice it, but he lifts all the furniture up into the frame. Everything's on little blocks.
One thing real quick is that this scene, this is the funniest thing, and it was about set dressing. And there was this thing by the door, and it didn't. I looked at it and I said to Monique, and I'm like, I don't know that we should have a toilet, but like an old timey toilet by the door. And she's okay. She's very sweet and took it out. So it sits outside, and I walked up to it. And I kind of sat down like, oh, I'm like, this is so weird. And then I looked next to it, and there was like a basin. It was to wash your face. It wasn't a toilet. So then I'm like, put it in. It worked out.
Yeah, I think it's that every decorator that's sitting up here has a great appreciation for all the details. Like, and it's details that, you know, aren't written in the script, but as soon as a decorator, you know, when I read a script, I try to get into the character. Well, it's never like you can see a beautiful piece of furniture, but would that character have it? It's that in every one of these decorators I've heard is that like I always think like a piece of furniture is important, but what you put on it, or like, you know, the little things that like, you know, sometimes you don't see it on the film, but the actors do. And when they walk in the space and it feels real and they walk around and they pick it up and they're like, I think it helps the actors too, that with what we're doing, brings out who they are. I think it's the detail. All of us are obsessed about details.
Sure, to expand on that just a little, it's like the most important thing outside of what Hannah and Ryan want to me is what the actor feels when they walk into the set. And you just want them to know they're exactly where they're supposed to be. And there's no doubt in their mind that they're in that space. And so if they open a drawer, you want something to be in that drawer that will also tell that story for them. You never want them to feel at any moment or any second that they could be taken out of the space that they're trying to create. So I think all of us up here probably take that very seriously to a point of annoyance. But yeah, that's the stuff that maybe other people don't see that I think bring the whole thing to life. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, as an aspiring set decorator and production designer myself, what advice do you guys have for people who are joining this industry now?
Tough times.
Going.
Yeah.
Don't ever stop. Don't know. Yeah, you're supposed to be where you want to be, right? And it's not easy right now. If you keep going, you make connections with people and try to figure out how to do your craft, do what you love without doing it, right? Sometimes when I'm not working, I'm drawing, I'm you know, my son's like, you find 100 different ways to do your job, even when you're supposed to be like relaxing. But you just keep going, like that, you know what I mean? Like that's the best. That's the best thing to do. I quit 1,000 times in 22 years. 1,000. I think I called Wayne once and told him like, "This is it, I'm done." Oh. He was like, "Kidding me." And I was like, and I did, and the first thing they gave me was fruit ale.
You.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Camila. I'm a Yoruba and set designer. And my question is, well, for everybody, but mainly for Hannah, I'm a huge admirer of your work and your collaboration with Carver costumes. And I was wondering if what is your approach to collaborating with costume designer, and in general, anybody has a favorite instance of collaborating with a great costume designer?
I mean, Ruth Carter, right? She was like a legend. Looked like when I'm not talking to Ruth. Yes. Whatever, like I remember the first time I walked into her space on the Earth Panther. And she had like the whole stage, right? It was just like this huge monster machine. And she so lovingly was like, you know, let me give you a tour. And I'm walking in and, you know, I made this Bible and she had all the pages like blown up and they were everywhere. And then there were like 100 sewers and then like the whole dye thing and the 3D print team and everything. And I'm like, oh, I don't really have that much to do it. And I'm like, well, I'm not really getting anything. And you just are in awe, and all I could do is learn from her. All I could do is see what she's doing and like hope to be worthy to be there with her because she's a living legend. Now, my favorite moment was on No Sudden Move, is a Soderbergh film with Don Cheadle and a whole bunch of people. And Marcy, I'm sorry, I cannot remember. Marcy was the costume designer, and it was her second film. And I just remember like, okay, she's like, what should I watch? And I just gave her a list of all these movies to watch from, you know, the sort of period that was another period film. She's like, okay, you know, she called me ma'am. And yes, ma'am. And you know, kept watching them, and then I'd really be there to be like, okay, well, this is what the set looks like. What do you want to do? And so she's like, I want the dress to be red, and I don't think the set's in the room, but let me change it because the red dress would be the right thing, I think, for this character. So it would behoove me to make that work within the set because her coming through in that red dress. So it's like it's a give and a take, right? It's never me telling the costume designer what to do. One, you're not ever going to tell a costume designer what to do. They're not with their job, right? Like they have to bring certain things to it, but I can dance around it and like enhance my what I do for those things. And mostly I'm just in awe because I think costumes is awesome, you know. And so I just kind of like, okay, what are you doing? Let me, you know, yeah, I don't really.
I'll say Hannah and Bruce work in a symbiotic relationship. It's pretty amazing to watch them work together. Like, and then you throw Autumn in there, so it's Hannah and Autumn and Ruth. And I mean, I'm trying to hide, but they're the way they work together is unbelievable. I mean,
I think being inspiring each other as a production designer and costume designer. And this on Frankenstein, it's the first time I'd worked with Kate Hawley. Shays had worked with her before. And boy, I mean, we sniffing each other around like a couple of dogs, honestly. I don't know what her experience with other production designers, and I just share everything. And once she got a hold of that idea, my pictures are up on her wall and her incredible drawings and stuff are up on my wall. And it was just it was a merging of minds, and it was a great experience.
Any other thoughts about collaborating with costume?
I just think it's communication. Yeah. So it is the sharing exactly. Like, you know, we obviously in our film in Hamnet, you know, we have a red dress. And you know, we knew that we were getting a red dress and what does that mean, you know, in terms of like how does that play in the interiors? And so we just and also we we're really big on the fact that you just share texture as well. So it's not just about color, it's about if a fabric exists in a costume, it should also exist, you know, in a world. So we're sort of always just sharing, and like there would be rolls of things that they're not using, they would give it to us. And, you know, it was very, yeah, it was a very good relationship.
Yeah, I would say that we're all making the same film and we have to have that communication.
Thank you. Next.
Hi there, my name is Gwendolyn and I'm an art PA right now. So I'm at the very super beginning of my career. And what I keep hearing is how difficult everything is. I'm kind of having a lot of fun. I was just hoping you guys could share like what brings you the most joy with your job.
Yeah, love to build things. I really do. Like, I grew up that way. I love to put things together. I think that I went to art school for a million years. And it was actually my father said, you know, you have a lot of different talents and interests. Maybe you should work in filmmaking. I hear they like people like you, and that's true. So just loving to make everything and, you know, explore different textures and paint colors and palettes and all of that.
What, how do you all get to connect with your inner child? What does give you the most joy out of this job?
For me, it's learning something new. I think you're always learning something new. In script, it's about a topic, and you immerse yourself so fully. And so all of a sudden, you're a motorcycle mechanic, or you become like an expert in these things. And the joy of discovery, and then even when that goes into like location scouting or talking about fabrics, I feel like you just have to always be like open to the process of learning, and that's the most joy that you can have, I think, as a creative. Be a sponge. Be a sponge, always absorbing everything.
One other thing I would say that's really cool about our jobs is being able to give other people unique jobs and opening them.
I think I have time for one more question.
Hi, my name is Jessica. I work as an art director in Brazil. And to me, sometimes it happens to build a whole set and they don't use it in the edition, or to build a 360 set and they like film just one corner. So I'd like to know if in this film it happens to you.
How often is your heart broken?
I mean, occasionally. I mean, we have been really lucky that we've done some films where you see everything. Like, so, you know, we did The Favorite, which is like everything. And so that kind of made up for all the years of seeing a dark corner. But I don't know, you have to just trust that it's right for the film, you know, even though, I don't know, have we been heartbroken? Probably.
Yeah, I think films is not high budget. You see everything, they shoot everything we make. No, I think there's kind of like Hamlet, there's maybe a couple of things that were cut, but not every set was shot in. Yeah. Yeah, even Mickey 17, which was, and Cruella, higher budget, they shot every single set we made. Wow. The King, what did they cut in there?
The King. We did a really they shot a dark corner by a window, and it was just like.
I actually thought at the Sisters of Graham Weaver mission, for mission, and we found this beautiful multi-room colonnade, and we dressed it all with a group of women who are actual weed-growing nuns that live in Merced. They came down and they brought all their goods, and we dressed this very elaborate set, hangout rooms, drying rooms. I'll let you get to the details of quantity, but when you watch the scene, it's at night and it's a close up on Willa, and then a close up on Willa in the room, and then the nuns are lined up and arrested, and that was that. But it was so amazing because we were struggling so much when we were filming it that like their world was almost too big for the story. And so even though you wanted to jump into that world and get to know these characters and see we didn't need that in that moment of like the odyssey of Bob's journey. We actually just, it was just a catapult to get to the chapel for, father, daughter to meet for the first time. So, what I'm trying to say is it has to serve the story. And I think that's like the bigger joy is when after you watch dailies and then you watch the edit, they go, actually, this is serving a story, but what it did serve was to put all of those people into action or into character and to like shape the architecture that then, even if it is just like by the window, it sculpts, it leads you to that end point.
I'm still upset every like 400 plans.
The sisters, I mean, if you ever look at the Sisters of the Valley, they're nuns that smoke weed. And I remember when I met them, when they showed up in their car and me and my crew went out to them, they opened the doors. It's like some of that cheesy talk, like and the woods progressing, and where's the sister that look over and they're over in the woods of Michigan, and they're smoking weed, and it's like the funniest image that you've ever seen. It's like but yeah, fast and dressed that we could see any of it.
The sequel. We want that in the sequel.
Guillermo, because he does shoot every corner of the set. But you do remind me, I worked on Existence as the art director with David Cronenberg. I don't know if you've ever seen this. We did this amazing game store. I spent hours designing boxes. I did a lot of graphics and Carol Spear, the designer, myself, and Eleanor Rose Galbraith, the decorator, we were destroyed. So he had the character come through this game store. We spent weeks, months on, and walk into a back closet, like a little niche where there were a bunch of boxes, and that's where he shot the scene.
It was on the first Black Panther we did the one of the like fish like markets, right, from South Korea. And I mean, we went in Atlanta. We had stuff shipped from, I had people in South Korea because we were doing scenes over there. So they like 40 people making graphics. They were going to, we did this. We did this thing, much like everyone else. And then I was so excited. I mean, like all of the South Korean people were there that were like vocal to Atlanta, and they were crying. They were like, "This reminds me of home." And then when I watched the movie, I was like, "Why is there so much smoke?" That's insane. I don't know if anybody wants to talk about atmosphere, but when that stuff comes out, and I promise you on Wakanda Forever, I'm walking past the atmosphere machine, and I look at it, and my assistant, who's now right, assistant Amara's with me, and I'm just like, I hate atmosphere. And it's just sitting there, there's nobody around. And I went to take a big, like, leg back, so I was gonna kick it. And he grabbed me, he's like, don't do it. And then I became sisters, and I was like, oh my. But yeah, it was the atmosphere, and it was insane.
Now that we've purged our souls. Time to say thank you to this amazing.
Yeah. Woo! Yes. Woo!
If you want to tell people you have to catch them outside, we're going to take on the stage right now.
Say that if anybody wants to do a little bit deeper dive, if you go to inside the set with Second Core, we've interviewed almost everyone. I think we might have missed Hannah in the movie, but there's a deeper dive of it.
Yay!
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Oh, that was great. Nice meeting you. Sorry.